Hello, beautiful people. So, real change in your life starts by noticing your patterns, honoring what your past has taught you, and choosing small intentional shifts that actually move you forward. Amen. And so, tonight I am here so that we can have a little tete a tete about the three biggest lessons that I learned in 2025 that changed me and changed my life. Um, why they matter and how they're going to help me choose what I'm doing differently in 2026 and what the shifts are that I'm going to be making going into the new year. Okay, so if you don't want your next year to look like your current year, listen up. Amen. And potentially even be inspired to act. But before we go any further, hi, everybody. My name is Rashni Cope, aka Glamazzini, out here on Glamazzini's internet. Remember, I'm a certified life coach. I'm also a longtime content creator. I help Black women heal, amplify their gifts, and create lives that they love that wildly love them back. I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, and on LinkedIn. If you are watching live, drop a pineapple emoji in the comment section and let me know where in the world you are watching from. I am watching from freezing cold and windy St. Louis, Missouri. The wind tried to take me out today. Okay, I had to switch coats. All right, I had a cute pink coat because there's pink, blue, and green in my pants because I'm a Virgin Island, I'm tropical all the time. And the way the wind tried to take my neck and my ears off and was like, where is your puffer hood? So I had to switch and I have a black puffer hood. Y'all didn't ask about that. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, and even if you're not, go ahead and subscribe to me at youtube.com/Glamazzini and like and follow on all the other platforms if you like videos about healing and creating a life that you love. Amen. Hi. Hi, you guys. I was live on Marissa Price Heals on YouTube yesterday. If you missed that, go and check it out. It was a wonderful conversation about what happens when Black women start saying a collective hell to the no. Hell no to the no, no, no. Thank you, Michelle Forrester from New York. My pineapple. I appreciate it. And R. Hollis, I saw your comment from earlier. Thank you if you are here. All right, you guys. So before I begin, quick housekeeping. 2 days are left to enroll in my Create Your Life virtual planning retreat. We start the retreat on this Friday, December the 12th. And if you are interested, visit the link on your screen, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. Enrollment actually closes at the end of day one. Amen. Amen. And I'm going to hide the ticker, but the link is there on the screen if you are interested. All right, let's get into 3 lessons that I learned this year and what I'm doing differently. Every year you learn something different. Every year will teach you something different about yourself. And sometimes you don't even want to learn these lessons, okay? Sometimes it's something that you have already been doing, but it like peels back a layer on the information and you add something new to it. So some of my lessons are going to be that, and some of my lessons are going to be brand new lessons. This year taught me that 3 things that really changed how I am showing up in my life, how I see myself, how I view my capacity, and how I'm going to be living from this moment forward, right? This has been, you guys, full disclosure, one of the most transitional years of my life. So, although I've learned a lot of lessons this year, I tried to just choose 3 that were the most impactful and that rearrange things back here. They just rearrange things, okay? And they're going to rearrange things for next year as well. So let's start with lesson number 1. Lesson number 1 that I learned in 2025 is the difference between can't and won't. The difference between can't and won't. Let me Before this year, I did what a lot of Black women do, right? I would have a dip in my capacity and I would think that something was wrong with me. Like, I would have a dip in my capacity, and I would think that it was like a personal flaw or like some kind of internal weakness, right? So if I was tired, I thought I was failing. I should be doing something. One of them that happens to me a lot is if my brain got foggy, I thought something was legitimately wrong with me. So I just pushed through and made whatever it was I had to do happen anyway. If my body was fully shutting down on me, going no matter what. However, this year, in the year of our good Lord 2025, I learned that there's a difference between can't and won't. Won't is when you have the capacity to do a thing and you're choosing not to do it. Can't is when your nervous system says, baby, you don't have it. Sit your tail down. And I don't know if it's age or wisdom or a mix of both. Okay. But this year I had a few moments where I couldn't even pretend like I still had it. I couldn't fake the funk. I couldn't force it. I couldn't mask it. I couldn't hustle it. And I couldn't grind through it even if I wanted to. So I learned that capacity is not a weakness and that I'm a human being. Hello, Black women, hello. Okay. And it's taken me just short of my good 50 years. Next year is going to be my 50th birthday to really get it. Like, let it live in my spirit. Let it live in my spirit. My nervous system was all the way out. Okay. And has been kind of tapped out for years. And you guys have been watching me live and in action learn the difference between can't and won't. And I share that with you whenever I learn it. And my body and my nervous system, body's telling me no. Are we still, wait, we cancel him. I can't sing that. Man, that's so much good music. Whatever, focus. Between being a caregiver, okay, being a person who is recovering from all kind of trauma, having multiple depression diagnoses, having anxiety and a whole PTSD diagnosis, running a business, maintaining a household, navigating toxic relationships, and just being a human being that's aging with a full emotional landscape. This year made it clear to me, right, that some things aren't a won't, some things are a can't. Some things are a no. Okay. And one of the places that I learned that the most is when I went to that Healthy Voices conference in November that I told you guys about. I think the video is called Return from Respite. It was a month ago, Return from Respite. When I got to that conference, I had no idea what I was walking into because I got a last minute invitation. So I really didn't know where I was going. I didn't walk into that conference as Glamazini, right? And I wasn't even sure what I was going to get when I got there. But when I got there, instead of just being an advocate who advocates for others, I was being advocated for. I was being treated like somebody who lived with depression for years, practically unsupported, with PTSD, who is a caregiver, who has burnout, who's learned to push through, who has stress, and all of these things. And it was so interesting for me to be in a space of advocates who are all used to advocating. And so I felt so held, so seen, and so supported. And I was like, oh, there's a difference between I can't and I won't, especially when other people are advocating for me and I see the difference, right? So even though I'm out here making what I do look good, okay, y'all see, I'm really into these chick me tank tops with the built-in bra, and I got my shoulders out. I put another one in my cart today. Okay, y'all see me talking about these products is because I have them. I'm using them. They're on me. Okay, I make it look good, but that doesn't mean that I have to be moving forward, right? There's a difference between can and won't. And guess what? There's also a difference between can and will, right? I get to choose. So being in that space at the conference with all those patient advocates reminded me that having a health situation is not a mental health situation, is not a like some kind of like moral lack of achievement. My capacity will shift. My brain will get tired. Sometimes my brain will get foggy. Sometimes as I age, my body will speak to me and tell me to sit down somewhere. I have diagnoses. They exist. Okay. It's alphabet soup over here. And the more that I ignore my limits, the louder those limits get. Right. That message actually came back to me on the video that I shared with you the other day when I had the 30% day. I think that one was called Systems That Save Me Depression Edition, right? When I woke up and I was depressed. Okay, depressed. That day, I didn't have 60%. I didn't have a 50 on it. I didn't even have the 40. Okay. I had a smooth 30%, sort of, kind of. And because I had built systems for myself on the good days, my routines and my rituals and my structure and my I don't have to think about it repetition, my life didn't fall apart or bottom out, right? I told you guys in that video, I had a morning routine. I have repetitive systems to care for my son. I have business systems and routines and a VA that helps me. I have community support. I give myself compassion, right? And all of those things reminded me of the promise that I made to myself that I will be carrying into next year, which is I will never live an unsupported life ever again. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not relationally, not any of the leaves. Okay? I get to be held to. I spend a lot of my life holding and showing up to carry others, and I think a lot of Black women do that, and we get to be held to. I'm not going to shame myself for noticing that I have a limitation. I'm a human being. I'm not going to push past my limits no matter who or what insists on me pushing. I'm going to continue to learn how to speak up. I'm going to continue to learn how to hold my place. I'm going to continue to intentionally rest. I'm going to continue to protect my peace and notice my capacity and create a life that honors it. So, some of the things I'm doing different next year include honoring my own bandwidth, like my bandwidth, not some predisposed bandwidth that people tell me I'm supposed to have, not the ones other people wish I had, not the one society expects from me. Brush needs bandwidth. Okay. I'm not doing a daggone thing I don't have the capacity to do. I'm not doing it. When I first had my son, I'm the mom of a son with special needs. He had so many specialists. Okay. I'm going to guess 12, 15. He still has them, by the way. And I kid you not, between my son's specialist and his therapist and all of that, I had 15 people telling me to do different something that they wanted me to do individually 3 times a day for 20 minutes, right? How? So wait. And even now in my life, I have well-meaning people that love me who give me assignments in a silo as though they're the only person giving me the assignment. And I have to learn to honor my own bandwidth and tell people no. And not dysregulate and cause a bunch of hullabaloo because everybody doesn't know nobody knows what's on your plate except you, right? The next thing I continue to schedule my rest first, not last, not when I earn it. Ain't no rest earning over here no more. Okay. I rest with intention. My rest goes on my calendar before I put the work on there. I nap practically every day. I'm trying to work through this bedtime and wake time thing because I learned that sleep regularity, like a regularity window, has all these benefits, especially for aging women. So I'm still working on that, but I've been doing it for the past few days and I've been feeling amazing. That and taking that CMOS gel that I told you guys about in the short focus regime. Okay. And excuse me, I have 2 work sabbaticals on my calendar. I did it last year. Well, this year, let's see, December and June of this year. I'm doing it again after the planning retreat in December. I'm doing it in June after the planning retreat. Highly recommend. Okay. Work planned, work sabbaticals, scheduled. And as I mentioned, next year is going to be my 50th birthday. And I am currently in the process of planning like a restful, like respite sort of birthday. My 40th birthday was a group cruise. You guys may have been here and remembered all of that. And as much as that seems like a good time, I don't have it in me right now. Your girl needs to chill all the way out. The next thing I'm doing next year, is I'm building and refining my systems for low capacity days. Like I shared with you in that depression systems video, those systems saved me when I had no motivation. I'm going to continue to create, which is what I do, and participate in spaces where that support me when I need support. I'm learning to speak up and to say what I need. I'm learning to recognize people who feel safe, who will offer to meet my needs. I'm learning to not dysregulate. I'm learning to not hide. I'm learning to ask for help because I deserve it. I'm going to keep practicing these things, and I'm going to keep intentionally looking for ways to tweak any of the systems that support me so that I feel more held and more seen. And the last thing that I'm going to do with respect to my first lesson that I learned, um, which is that the difference between I can't and I won't, is I'm going to continue removing shame about having a lower capacity or a lower mood. I literally have multiple diagnoses of a mood disorder. That means that I have a lower baseline. I have a lower threshold. If the middle of the curve is here, everybody's in here, and I'm down here. So I have to do stuff to get myself to the center. Ain't no shame in that. It's not a moral failure, nothing's wrong with me. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm like everybody else anymore. It's biology, it's exhaustion, it's my nervous system. We doing our best, okay? I literally am a caretaker in a stressful situation. I'm transitioning out of this building. You guys see I'm in a different direction. You guys were this way. Now you're this way. Okay. When I used to tell you that my vision board was on the wall, it was in front of me. Now it's on the side of me. There's a lot of things happening. Amen. I'm learning to discern toxic patterns so I can remove myself from them more earlier in the game. Ain't no shame in that. Ain't no shame in that. I'm just saying the stuff out loud at this point. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I'm going to continue to curate my supportive spaces. I have gotten really good in 2025 of curating spaces for friends, curating spaces for community, going to therapy. I actually have a Black woman therapist right now, intentionally. I switched to a Black woman therapist intentionally. Different structures, different administrative help, like my virtual assistant, making sure that that person is more aligned with me. And if they aren't, finding somebody who is, right? Everything that I'm doing is going to make my life much more livable moving forward. Let's hit the comments. Hey, you guys. Hi, is it Maha Patrick 4910? Hi. At 33 Moon Love. Hi, you guys. All right, all right. So that's lesson number one. Lesson number two. Lesson number two that I learned in 2025 is if I don't change the pattern chooses my year for me. If I don't change the pattern is going to choose my year for me. And I know that sounds super simple when you say it out loud, but it really be harder to understand when you live it. You know what I mean? And honestly, at this 49th year of life, it's it anchored into me in a way that I didn't totally grasp, right? We all want new outcomes in our life. Yeah. There's always something we want to be different, gentler, more aligned, more supported. We got more money, change, live somewhere else, whatever we're doing, right? But I have learned that wanting is different than living, right? If I don't change the pattern will literally dictate what I'm living. And this year showed me where my old patterns had been running the show. It's like every single time I pop the top off of one pattern, I look in and I see something else, like an onion, like layers of an onion, right? I could really, this year especially, see the places where I was still, even after all this healing work, over functioning. Not because I wanted to, but just because that's what I do automatically. Remember, I told you guys that your nervous system will default to what is familiar, to what is familiar. And so I could see this year places where I was over functioning. Whereas if you had asked me, like, Rushni, are you over functioning? I'd be like, absolutely not. I'm Glamazini. I'm a certified life coach. No, 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 I'm a human being, right? I saw moments where I slid back into emotional caretaking, like trying to keep the peace, trying to soften what I'm saying till it loses all of its fervor. Okay. People who telling me that I'm too much. So trying to shrink myself, trying to repair people's energy because they dysregulate. And so now I got to regulate them because they don't regulate themselves, trying to carry the load, which is a pattern that a generational pattern, basically. I am that person. I come in and I start doing all that. And I could really see this year places where I still go from empath to enabler, and where my old patterns that I learned so many years ago were just happening by default, right? I began years ago to learn how to have difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. Learn how to speak up, learn how to the vocabulary, learn how to express boundaries, learn how to say yes to something, learn how to say no to something, learn how to not make myself responsible for managing the reactions of a grown ass adult. Amen. Because that's what I learned. I learned to regulate dysregulated people, like to take on emotional burdens as just a pattern. I was just doing it over and over and over. And I had to learn that, right? And it's still a lifelong healing journey for me of unlearning a choice to be silent to keep the peace, unlearning shrinking myself so that other people feel comfortable, unlearning taking feedback from toxic people and trying to implement it as though that's going to do anything, right? Because my natural bent, real talk, you guys, is people pleaser. It's enabler. It's overgiver. So I am going to consistently attract people who benefit from that, right? Like self-centered, avoidant, overtaker people. And so this year made me realize that even though I thought I had rooted all of that up, I still have to watch myself like a hawk because I can still fall into those patterns very easily. I also saw in myself where I was trying to wing it without having any systems in place, right? Every time I did that though, I was exhausted, I was scattered, my brain wasn't working, I was flustered and frustrated. And I realized it has nothing to do with my capacity. I am not incapable in those spaces. I just didn't give myself the structure that I personally need for a change to be sustainable, right? I learned that I can want a calmer year. I can want more structure. I can want better boundaries. I can want more emotional connection, freedom, peace. I can want more rest. I can want more joy. I can want to live in a different place. I can want life to be different. I can want whatever I want to. But if I don't shift my patterns, my year will not shift either. Nothing's gonna happen differently. I think I've done videos telling you nothing gonna change unless you change. That's what I mean. I have to recognize patterns and then I have to make changes. Before I create any new year, right? What I learned this year is I have to interrupt automatic behaviors that keep recreating what I do not want. I have to notice them with intention. I have to call them out. Like Ayana say, I got to call a thing a thing. I got to let that thing sit in my body, give it space and look at it for a second. And then I have to choose something differently with intention. Choose something differently with intention. So the things I'm going to do differently now that I understand that if I don't notice patterns and change them, nothing's going to change is I'm going to continue choosing very small identity shifts and adhering to them. What is identity? Identity to me is the answer to the question, who am I? If I ask you, who are you? Can you answer it? Most Black women Cannot. Most Black women have been trained to perform roles in a system. So when I ask them who they are, they tell me the roles that they play in other people's lives. They do not tell me who they are. That's why identity work is one of the foundational elements of my coaching and my planning retreat. Okay, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. But just in general, because I will not help you create a life that's not yours. And I do not believe that you can create a life that you love, that loves you back, if you don't know who you are. Because if that is the case, you're just going to create what you've always created, which made you miserable, right? You're going to be a tool in a system. You didn't ask me for that, but that's what I mean. So when I say identity shifts, I mean I'm going to choose, like I've been doing for years, who I am. Because I believe identity can be something you go back and understand about an old you, something you can discern about a present you, and something you can choose to create about a future you. I don't think identity is rigid. I think it is fluid. Okay. That's what I think. That's what I think. Right. And so I know that when you have some concept of who you are, you make behavioral choices from that identity. And when your identity shifts, your habits will follow, right? So, for example, I talked more about this on the previous video I did live. I forgot what I called that one. The one I did right before this. So go back and look more on that one, right? But I decided that next year I am going to be a woman that is more tidy and put together. What does that mean, Rashni? Okay, I am Gen X, and I grew up with a parent who, made me dress up when I went to the airport. Okay, I could never leave the house without earrings. There was a very like prim and proper way. I've actually had friends, current friends, ask me to teach etiquette classes because I actually took etiquette classes. Like I did the whole walking with the book on my head. I learned how to do place settings. I learned different ways to sit, stand, open doors, shake hands, all of that. I also lived in the world of pageants for many years. And I've been told that I'm very like, right? Like that. Okay. Okay. So the idea of being put together kind of harkens back to that way of how I grew up, which, if I'm being honest, I've kind of bucked against in a way because I'm a little bit more boho and organic right now. But I like the idea of like being like buttoned up, not in my dress, but in my choices and how I present myself to the world. Now, am I already buttoned up in y'all's perception? Possibly, but I'm gonna be more. The other thing was I said tidy because I don't really know what to call that, but I'm going to I'll talk about this a little bit more in a little while. I'm going to intentionally curate my environment in a way that feels more minimalist and more intentional, not to the extremes of like people on the internet that we see doing all this stuff. Although I am studying some of those people to get concepts of an idea, and I'm going to live from that identity, as in 2026, I will be a woman who is more tidy and put together because that's going to make my behavioral choices change. It already has. I've already started getting rid of stuff and making little small decisions for things, right? Another thing I'm going to do differently is I'm going to continue to put the systems in place that I need because the systems really held me up in 2025. I am so grateful to a past version of me who isn't just out here winging it. I told you guys about 5 of the systems I put in place that saved me when I had that low capacity day. But surprise, surprise, my systems don't just save me on the low capacity day. I feel amazing today. I don't know if it's that CMOS gel that I've been taking. Um, I don't know what's going on. But when I tell you the last few days that I've been taking that CMOS gel, I feel exquisite. Okay. The system saved me on those days too. So I'm going to continue to implement, tweak, and uphold my systems. And the next thing I'm going to do a little bit differently when it comes to the pattern recognition and then choosing differently in 2026 is I'm going to bake in some more pauses. Why, Rushni? Because I believe that pausing is the first step in any healing, right? You got to stop. And when you make that stop, it is an intentional pattern disruption, right? And like I said, if your patterns are creating your year and your patterns are creating your choices, if you don't stop, you're just going to automatically keep doing the same thing, which is why you stop, you pause, you create some retreat. That's why I have a planning retreat. That's why people take sabbaticals. That's why people take days off, right? And I'm going to use those baked in pauses that I'm going to add into my routine. I'm probably going to do it once a week. Yeah, I think so. Um, to notice any patterns that did not get me in the direction that I wanted the previous week, to choose how I'm going to interrupt that pattern if I notice it, and to intentionally choose something differently. Because that is how I am going to create an entirely different year. That's how I do it. That's how I does it. Pausing is something I can really use. I have baked in pauses in my life over the past few years with such intention, and it has changed everything. It has changed everything. Part of why you can't change nothing, I'm not saying you, so let me take your comment off the screen. It's because you're so busy running the same operating system, the same thing over and over. You don't have a moment to stop, breathe, and even hear yourself. Tanny Washington says, heavy on having systems in place and not everything can fit in the schedule. That's the part. First of all, your avatar looks really cute. If those are locks, good for you. If they're braids, also good for you. Sorry, I get distracted by beautiful Black women. Okay, right. Everything can't fit in the schedule. That's the other part that's wild. Because us Black women, us, we be thinking we could do the work of 20,000 men. And the reason why we think we can do the work of 20,000 men is because the system has trained us to think that we can do the work of 20,000 men. But guess what happens when you try to do the work of 20,000 men? Black women, you burn out. You can't do it. Then you go into a shame spiral because you expected yourself to be superhuman because the messaging that you've gotten your entire life was that Big Mama carried it all and you should carry it all too. But Big Mama dropped dead at 65 years old with hypertension and an autoimmune situation. Do you want that? You're a human being. You need to rest. Okay. Like Tanny says, some of that stuff can't fit on your schedule, or some of it can't fit on your schedule right now. You could get to it. If you take good care of yourself and you are a healthy individual, you can create a plan, which is actually part of my planning retreat. Bars, hello, bit.ly / virtual plan retreat. Come out here I got it for you. But you could create a plan that says, I'm going to get to that in 5 years. Hello. And the other thing I'm going to do about the pattern switching is exactly that. I'm going to do my own planning retreat. Okay. As I told you guys, I have the planning retreat and I host it for the women that sign up. However, the planning retreat started as my own personal planning retreat that I did for years by myself. Okay. It had nothing to do with coaching anybody. It was me changing my own life. Right. And I still do the planning retreat every single year. When I do the planning retreat with the women, when their week is done, the following week, I do the planning retreat myself. Because when I'm done with it, I want to also have what the participants have, which is a plan that I can execute the next year. That's what the participants get, and that's what I get too. Okay. I'm not going to have other Black women out here winning and I'm struggling. So that's my second lesson, right? If I don't change my patterns, the patterns choose the year for me. And conversely, when I change my patterns, like I did in 2025, whole different year. So we running that back. Okay, we running that back. And the third lesson, well, no, let me say this. One thing I want to tell you guys before I get to the third lesson that I learned is I realized this year too how much my habits are shaped by my environment. What do I mean by that? I mean that your actual surroundings influence your behavior more than you actually realize. Yeah. Stephanie Perry, who is the founder of Exodus Summit, she always says on her videos that you can be a different person in a different place. Or maybe she says a new person in a different place, something like that. And this year, I was changing my environment a lot. And I started realizing that one, I felt a bit untethered, if I'm being honest. And I was like, what am I untethered from? And I started realizing that having a different environment made it hard to remember my habits, right? And so I looked up the research. You guys know I looked up the research. I always look up the research. I love a good research paper, okay? And there has been decades of research on this about the fact that your brain takes cues from what's around you to trigger the habit that you're going to execute. So it takes cues from the people that you're around, how you're going to act around this specific person, right? It takes cues from the spaces, like your physical items. Yeah. It takes cues from your routines, all these different things in your life, your job, the parking lot at work, the lunchroom, the vending machine, right? All of these things trigger in your brain the path of least resistance, and you just go into an automatic pattern, right? So, like, you wake up in the morning, you walk into your bathroom, you see your toothbrush, you brush your teeth, you floss your teeth, you use your mouthwash, you walk out. But last week you spent a week in an Airbnb and you didn't floss your teeth the whole week. Why? Because something in your brain didn't trigger to floss your teeth because you weren't in your bathroom. That's what I mean by that, right? In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear says, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. So, when I looked at my 2025, when I looked at my life this year through that lens, so many things began to click, especially while I was feeling so untethered. I started to see the spaces that I was in and how they influenced how I felt, and the spaces I was no longer in and how that also influenced how I felt, right? I started to notice that my routines were stronger when I was in an environment that actually supported those routines. I mean, duh, but also sometimes we don't even think about that, right? I started to notice that it was easier for me to heal certain things when I was in spaces that actually matched my values. A good example of this is I don't physically go to church every Sunday anymore, you guys. I'm sure you guys have picked up on that, but if you haven't, I don't. And it's because in 2020, when I was ejected out of there against my will, had every intention of running back up in the church. I had a very interesting experience realizing that my church was causing me anxiety and that the anxiety was dissipating when I wasn't there. And then going down that rabbit hole and then, reading my Bible every single day, still do, and reading my Bible every single day and being away from that environment made it easier for me to heal certain things. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's not what this video is about, right? I also saw this year how quickly I could slip back. I could stop a pattern that I didn't want to be happening. And then I would get into the old environment and I would slip back into the old pattern because the old environment was triggering an old version of me, which is why I started looking up research papers, right? And that's how I realized it had nothing to do with weakness. It's not even unique to me. It's human biology, you guys. You are surrounded by things that cue certain habits in your life. Every time you see that mug, you decide you got to go get something to drink. Every time you walk into the kitchen and you do XYZ, you decide you got to get the chips. Every time you see that person, you decide it's time to cuss and act crazy or to gossip or to do something that you don't want to do anymore. Your environment either makes changes easier or it drags you back to where you used to be. That's what I'm learning in 2025. You see, the environment is changing. Okay. And so am I. So next year, I'm doing something very intentionally. I am updating my environment to match the woman that I am becoming, the woman that I am creating. Okay. And not the woman that I've been. And like I told you, I've already started giving away stuff. I've already started giving away stuff, you guys. This has you deep thinking. Good. I love a deep thinker. Okay. That's one of my favorite things to do. I have already started shifting and giving away things and calling in and procuring things that match the me that I'm becoming. Here's an example. You can't see it today because I'm in between hairstyles, which is why you guys are getting the parade of hair wraps. But I decided in 2025 that the woman that I'm creating always has her hair done. And I don't know if you guys saw me this year, but I always had my hair done. Now, am I a person that lets a hairstyle ride out longer than most? Yeah, I don't care. I actually like old braids better than I like new braids. That's my aesthetic. But I made that decision and I make standing appointments. Okay. I have a friend who does my hair. You know why? Because the me that I'm creating always has her hair done. And I'm about to do a few more of those. Okay. I think I'm about to, I like how my shoulders look in these tank tops. I think the other day I decided that I am a person that wears, what do you call that stuff that makes you shiny? Body gloss or whatever. I'm about to be got body gloss, girl. Okay. I shine or whatever. I glisten. Okay. So, what I realized is I'm going to update my environment, and that's going to look like removing visual reminders of things I don't want around me no more. Not just removing things I don't want around me, removing visual reminders of the me I don't want to be. If every single time, and I've been doing that for years, I'm going to keep doing it. If every single time I walk by something, I see a pair of earrings, a pair of pants, something in the refrigerator that reminds me of somebody I hate, or some obligatory reason why I own it, or some way I self betrayed myself. I don't have time for my things to be saying negative things about me. My things gonna talk to me nice too. It got to go. You got to be replaced. Or some freight, I have a charger that's frayed and coming apart. Every time I look at it, something in my brain says, you don't even value yourself enough to get a new charger. Shut up. No, we're updating things. Okay. I'm also going to start continue, because I'm already doing it, adding cues that nudge me toward the me I'm creating. Same thing. This water bottle is because I wanted a glass water bottle that I thought was pretty. Do I have water bottles? Yes, you guys have seen the water bottles. Sometimes you see the plastic ones that I have. This is important to me. One of the biggest changes I started making over the years was changing things, realizing that aesthetics was important to me and changing things to be more aesthetic to me. That's how I got this pink microphone. I saw it on somebody's video. I had another microphone. I saw it on somebody's video. I screenshot it, reverse Google image searched it, and now it's mine. I have two of them. I have a pink one and a black one. Okay. I'm going to keep maintaining the routines that I have. My morning routine is wonderful. I have a new one and I like it. I think I got into a good rhythm and it's working good. I feel really good. So I'm going to keep doing that. Although I do want to add the vibration plate, we're going to get there. Okay. I'm working on a evening routine now. Like I said, a bed and a wake time, because the research says that as you age, having a consistent bed and wake time does all these amazing things. And that seems to be working well, to the point that I'm getting it to be more automatic at this point. I'm going to keep designing my spaces intentionally, digital spaces as well, physical and digital spaces, to be more minimalistic and have me be less stimulated. I'm not saying I'm taking out the color. It's going to be pineapples everywhere. Okay. I told Marissa yesterday when I was on her page that her platforms feel like a spa and my platforms feel like a toy store. I'm still toy store. Okay. I'm not full Tabitha Brown toy store. I'm like somewhere in the middle, but I like less things, which is why I'm giving away things, because I had a lot of I grew up a lot with don't get rid of this. I had one parent who was trying to get rid of stuff, and another one who was like, don't get rid of this because I might need it, because I might need it. Nah, we don't need it. Okay. If it's been sitting there for that long and I haven't touched it, just in case, you can go, because you're making me itch, right? And I'm going to also keep curating relationships that reflect mutual growth, healing, right? Maturity, that feels safer, and not the default that I was programmed to, which is, if I'm being honest, to rescue people, to fix people, to silence myself, to be in persistently imbalanced and exhausting spaces with energy vampires. I'm updating that environment as well. Okay. That has nothing to do with the woman I'm creating, because my environment will shape my habits, and my habits will shape my year. So if I build an environment that helps me become the version of me that I want to become with ease, I'm not going to be fighting upstream in the struggle, trying to create the me that I'm becoming. Okay. I'm off the rough side of the mountain. somebody else can have it. This year showed me that my environment has to change or else my habits will not change either, right? So next year, I am curating an environment with attention. Okay, lesson number 3 that I learned. Small steps change everything. I always tell you guys, don't knock small things you haven't tried. Don't knock small things you haven't tried. Do not knock small things you have not tried, boo boo. Have you tried it? I know you know it, but have you done it? A year of small, honest steps can create a version of you that feels unrecognizable. Ask me how I know. The woman that you guys were watching in January of 2025 is not the woman you guys are watching right now in December of 2025. I had that thought the other day and I almost tore this whole place up because I'm an ex church girl and I want to shout sometimes. Sometimes you still want to shout. You know what I mean? It's a whole new me. This has been one of the most transformative years of my life. And the funny thing is, it didn't come by force. It didn't come by me attempting to do some whole gigantic sweep and change. It literally has been happening as I look back on it by small, intentional daily choices. Okay? I'm not only a client, I'm the small things president. I'm trying to tell y'all what I know. Through making tiny, doable, attainable choices that I can actually sustain, through systems that I've put in place when I feel good that supported my healing instead of draining me, right? Through steps that I could actually take, not some big dream and some fancy plan, steps I could actually take. And through me refusing to abandon myself and betray myself and stare myself off course, even on the days when I didn't have the energy or my brain felt foggy. This year has shown me that I can change my life by doing small things and hard things, and that I don't have to do those things alone. I moved through being a caregiver. I don't know if y'all remember, at the end of last year, my son had back surgery that had been postponed multiple times. He almost died on the operating table. I was probably dressing 4 or 5 open wounds. He probably still had drains in his body at this point. I was dealing with an eye charlasian, so there was medical stuff all over the place. And it's 13 months since my son's surgery, and we still have 1 open wound. I'm still dressing wounds. I've been dressing wounds for over a year. It was a lot going on. Okay? There was a lot going on. I moved through being a caretaker. I moved through things in my business. I moved through emotional and nervous system healing. I moved through relationship shifts. I moved through capacity fluctuations. I moved through in 2025 rearranging an internal and an external world. And the only way I could do that stuff is because I created support spaces that could hold me and I executed small choices that got me and are getting me where I want to be. I learned that the clarity that I was missing when I was younger and that I was hoping for and that I was yearning for and everything like that, it really comes through motion and not through motivation. Like I thought I would have to be motivated to make certain changes. And no, I just have to move. So I gained a lot of confidence by realizing that what I needed to lean on was repetitious choices and not hopes and vibes and dreams. The choices that I made in 2025 came from a plan. And yes, it's from my planning retreat. I know y'all think I'm trying to sell you something, but what I'm trying to sell you is freedom. Okay. I literally do this retreat every year. And I take the things that I teach the women how to do and I put them in the calendar and the task list and I do them. And it has shifted my year through small choices in a way that I could execute in a way that I can't explain to you guys. Was I ready for some of these changes? No, readiness is actually not required. Readiness was something I created. It was not something I waited for. In the past, I waited to be ready a lot longer. Marissa and I were talking about the sunk cost fallacy on her video yesterday. And I said on her video yesterday that if I were talking to my younger self, I would tell myself that you need to learn how to move earlier. The sunk cost fallacy is exactly that. It's a fallacy. Readiness is not something you wait on. Readiness is something you create. A year of small intentional choices has transformed me and will continue to do so. A year of supportive systems has carried me through seasons that in the past I thought I would die if I tried to go through these seasons. A year of choosing Rushni, even imperfectly, even when I wasn't ready, has turned me into a different person, a person I didn't know I could become. And it's going to continue to do that next year. Okay. It's going to continue to do that. So let's talk about um, how I'm going to change, what I'm going to change now that I understand that it's the small things that I have tried, not the small things I haven't tried that changed my year, right? Next year, I'm not making no big, huge, sweeping, scary changes. I'm not making no big, huge, sweeping, scary choices. Although I anticipate some really big changes. But those changes are going to come from me doing one small choice at a time. I'm not going to look at the big goal in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to decide what next Tuesday looks like, and I'm just going to do that because that's how I worked it out in 2025. So ain't no more chasing monstrous reinventions. We ain't doing no dramatic before and after videos and glow up situations for Instagram. I'm building my year like I did this year. I'm going to continue to do that around small, authentic, honest, repetitive, consistent choices because I have learned that tiny shifts stack on each other. I have learned that tiny choices stick. They're easier to execute. They're not as scary. My nervous system can handle them. I can digest them. They compound over time. And all of those tiny shifts change everything. It's like momentum that you get in a snowball. So I'm going to choose to do doable steps and not even look at gigantic, overwhelming goals. If the change does not feel nervous system safe, I'm going to shrink it. And if that doesn't feel safe, I'm going to shrink it again to the smallest step possible. And then I can make some progress that I can repeat so that I can see the change in 2026 that I saw in 2025. And I can't wait. Okay. I'm also going to focus more on daily alignment as opposed to huge bursts of intensity, right? I'm going to just work the plan to work and work the plan. One habit at a time, one boundary at a time, one choice at a time, one nap at a time. Okay. One yes at a time, one no at a time, one promise kept to myself at a time. I'm also going to celebrate the hell out of every tiny win that I have. Because I have realized that life will drag you down and tell you everything we did wrong. But oftentimes we don't spend a lot of time, especially as adults, hearing what we did right. And so I'm going to implement celebrations of micro wins and micro milestones because they are milestones. Once again, Stephanie Perry always says that baby steps are still steps. Progress is progress. Okay. I think the baby steps propaganda is to keep us stuck. Every small decision that you make that honors who you are becoming is a vote for who you are becoming. You're voting for the woman you are creating. I'm going to celebrate her. Every tiny change, I don't care if it's I did something different with my water consumption. I remember to put on my body glow today. Okay. Your girl was just 1% more put together. I'm not gonna be that put together, you guys, because to me, put together kind of like reeks of like 40s housewife, and ain't nobody trying to do all that. Although I love that look, okay? I'm not trying to be like fully buttoned up. Is there such a thing as bohemian put together? Because that's kind of the direction I'm going in. I don't know how to do that, but we'll figure it out, okay? You guys, we'll figure it out. All right. And I am going to lean heavily on consistency, repetition, not a bunch of heavy lifting. Actually, ease is where I'm at still. That way, I don't have to be motivated. I don't have to have no cortisol spikes. I don't have to be shame driven by the hustle culture, right? I'm just going to make me a little plan and I'm just going to trot along with my little plan and I'm just going to make me my little steady small step choices over time and I'm going to work this thing out. Watch me, okay? I'm not waiting for any huge moments to change my life anymore. I think that a lot of us are taught that like life is like these big and maybe that's our childhood. You know, we do have a childhood that is all of these big monumental things that happen. And then I think in adulthood sometimes we want to recreate that. But it's the small things, right? This year has taught me that transformations can happen in the quiet, in the stillness, on a Tuesday, on a regular day, like in the ordinary moments through simple choices that align with who I am and who I'm becoming. Nobody is coming to save me. I have to save myself. So I will, right? So the first lesson, let's recap, was this year I learned the difference between can't and won't, and that capacity is not a weakness. I also learned that if I don't change my patterns choose my year. And so I have to change my patterns. And I learned that habits are formed and highly affected by environment. And the last thing I learned is taking small intentional steps can change everything in a matter of months. You think you're not making a small change, but if you just keep doing it, you can be an entirely different person next year. I'm a living witness, like the church people say. Okay. Anyway, if you do not want next year to look the exact same as this year, right? I would love for you to join me in my Create Your Life. Let me put on whoop, Create Your Life virtual planning retreat. Every year I do the planning retreat for myself. 5 years ago, I started offering it to my coaching clients first for free. Now, not for free anymore. However, it is chocked full of a week of self paced planning modules, as well as videos and audios to help you create a plan from the concept of who am I, from the identity work that I said. So every woman that joins gets a week of self paced coaching modules and will end the week with their own specific and unique plan. And then after that, the December cohort will meet once a month for monthly group accountability calls. Oh, I forgot to say that during the planning week, we have 4 Zoom calls that are live. So we will be meeting this Saturday is the first Zoom call, ladies. The ladies that have signed up, and you will see it'll be every other day for the planning week, all of next week. And so if you have questions, if you need help, if you need support, you'll be able to meet the other participants. You'll be able to ask me questions. You'll be able to get coaching. And then after that, January through October of 2026, the December cohort will get 10 monthly group accountability calls. I love doing the planning retreat. We have women who have done the planning retreat now with me on there. We have some new people. We have returning people who have done it 2 years, 3 years. Of course, there's people like me that have done it like 15 years. I don't know how many years I've done the planning retreat. I should go back and see if I can figure out when I started doing this. It's been over a decade, right? If you are interested in joining us, the link is on the screen and it's in the information box, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. If you are watching this before December 12th or on December 12th, you are able to enroll. Enrollment closes at midnight Central Standard Time on December 12th, 2026. If you visit the page after that, you will be able to join the waitlist for the June cohort. The June planning retreat will cost more, and they have one less accountability call if you are interested in knowing that, right? December gets 10, June gets 9, because rest is built in. Amen. I'm excited to start. Planning retreat season is so fun to me. I'm getting so excited. I'm getting so excited. Yeah, Marissa is on her second one, and I'll see you shortly. You said, "Ooh, the anti-baby steps propaganda." Yeah, I feel like a lot of the things I've learned that a lot of the things that actually help us create a life that centers us in it have a lot of crappy propaganda, and you have to wonder who is benefiting from giving us that messaging. You know what I mean? Like, who is telling us that we have to make big sweeping changes or else we're a failure? I don't know, right? I don't think, right? It's a marathon, it's not a race. Hi, Zerubbabel. Yeah. And not just even a marathon. It could be a trot. Okay. It could be a stroll. All of those things are ways to move your body in an intended direction. Don't let anybody tell you that you got to do a full out sprint or you even have to do a marathon, boo boo. Stroll your way to your new you. Okay? Just do it. Right? Go in that direction is what I'm saying. Go in that direction, right? Um, 33 Moon Love says the hardest thing for me is how to balance my life while being a caretaker. Finding good support has been a challenge. Yes, being a caretaker adds so much to your choices that people who are not caretakers will never comprehend. However, I would say to you that there are respite programs often in different states that a lot of us caretakers are so exhausted, we don't even have the time to look. So, whenever you have an opportunity to, you could sit down and be like, are there respite programs for me in my city? And there's one that my son is eligible for. And what they allowed me to do, I'm in Missouri, what they allowed me to do is they allowed me to submit they will provide a caretaker, but they also allowed me to submit my own caretaker to their program and they reimburse me to pay them. So instead of me leaving my son with a stranger, I leave my son with a family member who submitted to their program, got approved as a caretaker, and they get paid to do it. And there are other programs like that. It's just sometimes it's really hard to find the program because we are too busy taking care of the humans. Yeah, so I totally understand that. But I would look up respite, caregiver resources in your particular state because every state and community is different. You never know. You might have something that amazing where you can actually get somebody who you trust to come and be with your child while you have a moment off and pay them as opposed to using like another person, right? As opposed to using another person because I know how hard that is. Oh, Marissa says oh, you were saluting me as the president. Thank you very much. Anyway, you guys, I'm not only a client, I move this thing one small choice at a time. Okay. Y'all ain't gonna have me out here stressed out. My nervous system is not, I have PTSD. My nervous system is not about to be blown out with y'all trying to trick me into doing no glow up reels on the internet. I'm shifting this thing one small choice at a time. Be well, you guys. Be encouraged and keep creating. Wait, I think I see one more comment. You're welcome, Moon Love. Here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all.